It was 6 a.m. when the cops showed up at my door again. Karen stood at her fence line, pointing toward my house, clipboard in hand, like she was busting a major drug operation. This time my crime was unpermitted pool construction on my own property. Officer Martinez looked embarrassed as he read her complaint. The same pool that had been a mosquito-infested swamp since the Bush administration now had Karen acting like the neighborhood dictator in her tennis whites. What she didn't know was that I had been documenting every illegal move she made for months, and my lawyer was ready with enough evidence to end her HOA reign for good. That pool she tried so hard to sabotage would soon host a victory celebration. Let me back up and tell you how this whole mess started. My name is Mike Henderson. I'm 52 years old and spent 25 years as an electrician dreaming of owning a house with a pool. Nothing fancy, just a decent home where my wife Sarah and I could host family barbecues without upstairs neighbors stomping around. Sarah is a school librarian, the salt of the earth, and for nearly a decade, she had been dropping hints about hosting her book club by the pool. When we finally saved enough for our dream house on Maple Street, that old pool was the biggest selling point. Sure, it was 30 years old with a cracked liner and a filtration system that sounded like a dying elephant. The musty smell of old pool water hit you from 20 feet away, a mix of swamp and chemical plant. Algae coated the concrete like green carpet, and every step around the deck crunched through layers of dead leaves that had been piling up since the Clinton years. When I got the renovation estimate of $40,000 for what was basically a glorified concrete hole, I decided to go the DIY route and handle most of the work myself. After all, I had been an electrician for decades. How hard could a pool renovation be? That's when I met Karen Whitfield. She showed up on her second day in the neighborhood, click-clacking across my driveway in heels that could puncture steel. At 55, she had perfectly coiffed blonde hair that seemed to defy gravity, and she carried herself like she owned the entire block, which it turned out she pretty much thought she did. Her overpowering vanilla perfume lingered in the air long after she left, like some kind of territorial marking. "Welcome to the neighborhood," she chirped, handing me a thick packet. "I'm Karen, your HOA president. This is your homeowner's manual, all the rules and regulations to keep our community beautiful." I flipped through it. Grass height limits, garbage can placement rules, holiday decoration guidelines. Sarah rolled her eyes behind Karen's back. "We had escaped apartment, living only to find this," Karen added with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "And if you're planning any exterior improvements, you'll need architectural approval first. We can't have people changing things willy-nilly." I started draining the pool the following week. That's when Karen appeared again, this time with a measuring tape and clipboard. She stood at the fence line, snapping photos like she was documenting a crime scene. "Excuse me," she called out, "but pool renovation requires HOA architectural approval. I don't see any permits posted." I walked over, still holding the pool skimmer. "It's just restoration, not new construction. Same pool, just fixing what's broken." Her smile tightened. "Any exterior changes require approval. That's a $500 daily fine until you get the proper permits. The architectural committee," she explained, "would review my plans next month." After she left, I did some digging. The committee consisted of exactly 3 people, Karen and 2 of her close friends. Yet within 4 blocks, I found 3 identical pool renovations from the past 2 years that had required no approval at all. Sarah discovered that Karen had already posted about us in the neighborhood Facebook group. New residents beginning unpermitted construction, concerned about property values and community standards. Comments were split. Some neighbors supported us after years of dealing with Karen's nitpicking, while others stayed silent out of fear. One man, named Bob, wrote, "Maybe we should let people improve their own property without needing committee approval for fixing a broken pool." Karen shot back, "Some people just don't understand what it takes to maintain a quality neighborhood." That's when I realized this wasn't really about permits or standards. It was about control. And Karen had picked a fight with the wrong electrician. 3 days later, I received a certified letter from the city building department. Someone had filed a formal complaint claiming I was doing unpermitted construction in violation of city codes. The letter ordered me to stop all work immediately and restore the property to its original condition. meaning the mosquito-breeding swamp. Karen followed up with another Facebook post calling out rogue homeowners destroying community standards, complete with photos of my pool site. I decided to fight fire with fire. I spent the weekend reading all 47 pages of the HOA bylaws. Buried deep in the rules, I found the key point. Architectural approval was only required for structural additions that altered the existing footprint of the property. Renovating an existing pool didn't count as an addition. Karen's rules simply didn't apply to my situation. I filed a public records request and discovered something even better. Karen had personally approved identical pool renovations for 3 different properties in recent years, all for her real estate clients. Even her own pool renovation from 2019 had no architectural approval on record, yet she had proudly posted before and after photos on her business Instagram. I screenshot everything: Facebook posts, Instagram pictures, public records, and organized it all into a folder labeled evidence. Meanwhile, the sound of my new pool pump humming after 20 years of silence felt like sweet music. Sarah brought me a cold beer as we watched crystal clear water circulate for the first time since we moved in. Karen watched from her kitchen window the entire time, opening and closing her blinds like a spy in a bad movie. That evening, Karen knocked on our door, no longer pretending to be friendly. "The HOA board has reviewed your situation," she said coldly. "We're calling an emergency meeting to address your violations: unpermitted construction, failure to obtain approval, and disturbing the peace with excessive noise." She suggested I bring a lawyer. Sarah just shook her head and laughed after Karen left. My research showed that selective enforcement is legally shaky. When an HOA applies rules to some homeowners while ignoring identical situations with others, it opens the door to discrimination claims. Karen had been playing this game for years, and now I had the evidence to prove it. As the weeks went on, Karen doubled down. She organized a petition claiming my pool work was causing drainage issues. She hired a private inspector who found nothing wrong. She started showing up in my backyard at all hours with a decibel meter app, claiming my equipment violated noise ordinances. My contractor looked at her like she had lost her mind. I hired an attorney who specialized in HOA disputes. Within an hour, she uncovered serious problems with the way Karen ran the board. The architectural committee only had 3 members when state law required at least 5, making every recent decision questionable. Even worse, subpoenaed financial records showed Karen had been depositing architectural review fees directly into her personal checking account, an act that amounted to embezzlement under state law. Word spread, and other neighbors started coming forward with their own stories. Margaret's fence repair had been blocked for months. Bob, a Vietnam veteran who needed a wheelchair ramp, had been delayed by Karen citing aesthetic concerns. The pattern was clear. Karen targeted working families and elderly residents while giving her real estate clients a free pass. By now, Sarah was stress-baking chocolate chip cookies every night, filling the neighborhood with their aroma. Even as Karen spied on us from her car, she had to smell those cookies, and no, she wasn't welcome to any. I installed security cameras after Karen's harassment intensified. Within days, the cameras caught her at 3 a.m., dressed in dark clothes, pouring herbicide on my new landscaping plants. Another night, she was caught dumping household trash, coffee grounds, banana peels, empty wine bottles over my fence. The footage was crystal clear. Then came the bombshell from my attorney. Karen didn't legally live in the neighborhood anymore. For 2 years, she had been using her elderly mother Dorothy's address on Maple Street for HOA eligibility, voter registration, and official business, while actually living 15 miles away in a different county. According to the bylaws, board members had to be actual residents. Every decision Karen had made was legally void. She had also been claiming homestead exemptions and filing insurance claims from the wrong address. This wasn't just HOA fraud, it was systematic deception. I visited Dorothy with a plate of Sarah's cookies. The sweet 78-year-old woman confirmed everything. Karen had moved out after her divorce 2 years earlier, but kept using her mother's address to hold on to power. Dorothy had no idea her daughter was committing fraud. We decided to save this information for the emergency HOA meeting. Let Karen think she was putting me on trial. Instead, She was walking into her own reckoning. The neighborhood coalition grew to 18 families. We met in my backyard by the pool, planning carefully. Bob would question her finances, Margaret would address selective enforcement, and I would deliver the final blow about her residency fraud. The local news even showed interest once they heard about the potential licensing violations and elderly exploitation. The night of the meeting, the community center was packed with 67 homeowners, far more than the usual handful. Karen looked exhausted and disheveled as she called the meeting to order and launched into her speech about protecting property values and dealing with troublemakers. Bob stood first and calmly asked about her actual address. Margaret followed with questions about double-charged fees. Then my attorney Jennifer presented the evidence: bank records of embezzlement, utility bills proving the false address, and security footage of Karen vandalizing my property and dumping trash. The room erupted when I stood and publicly revealed that Karen hadn't lived in the neighborhood for 2 years and therefore had no legal authority as president. Chaos broke out. Karen completely lost control, screaming that we were all conspiring against her. That's when Officer Martinez stepped forward with a warrant for her arrest on charges of embezzlement, mail fraud, and filing false police reports. A representative from the State Real Estate Commission suspended her license on the spot, and an IRS agent mentioned unreported income from fraudulent fee collection. Karen was let out in handcuffs while the entire community watched. As she passed me, she hissed, "This isn't over." I looked her in the eye and replied, "Yes, Karen, it is." Bob Rodriguez was elected interim president by acclamation. The first order of business was voiding every fine Karen had issued and refunding all illegally collected money. In the end, Karen pleaded guilty to avoid a full trial. She received 18 months of probation, had to pay $25,000 in restitution, and completed 500 hours of community service. Her real estate license was permanently revoked, and her house went into foreclosure. She eventually moved to Arizona to live with her sister and is barred from ever serving on another HOA board. Our neighborhood changed for the better. We reformed the HOA with new bylaws that limited board power, required transparency, and created a proper 5-member architectural committee with rotating membership. My pool became the heart of the community, hosting barbecues, swimming lessons for kids, and monthly gatherings. Property values rose, real connections formed, and the toxic atmosphere disappeared. I even started a small consulting business helping other homeowners deal with HOA abuse, sharing the strategies and templates that work for us. The experience taught me that standing up to bullies doesn't just help you, it frees everyone around you. Sometimes the clearest water comes after the biggest storm.